every day and burning over 150 million liters of diesel annually. Now, clearly, this growing fleet of internal combustion engine buses is one of the largest sources of harmful air pollution and climate warming emissions. To this end, replacing a single diesel bus with an electric bus would eliminate the tailpipe emissions from the diesel bus and mitigate 50 tons of carbon dioxide emissions each year, far more than replacing a passenger car. In the same spirit, and according to Basigo, the operating cost of an electric bus is much lower than a diesel bus, so electric buses can actually improve income for bus owners. Now, Dr. Engineer Joseph Njoroge, the Principal Secretary, Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, attended the event, and he said that they are currently working towards launching the BRT system in Nairobi to ease traffic, and their goal is to have electric buses used. Now, the buses from Basigo are proof that they can make that a reality and work towards building a sustainable transport sector. Now, my question is, with the rising cost of electricity and inflation on a spike, how feasibly sustainable is this electric transportation sector? How much will the buses charge? Can you imagine 20 shillings per kilometer? That is how much the Basigo will be charging or intend to charge. How many kilometers is it from your place to town or where you work? How much do you pay? Just do the math. Overall, such an electric bus system by Basigo is ecological and suitable for cities. It has a high economic efficiency, and it also expands the traffic planning field towards an ecological future technology. As much as it's a great invention, let's see how the piloting phase will go. As it is, Basigo plans to expand its offering to bus operators in other major towns across Kenya and broader East Africa, with Nairobi as the first pilot test. All right, that's the tech invention in the tech space happening right now. We take a short commercial break. More coming up.
Managing your finances starts with questions. Where do I put my money? What opportunities are available for my money? What ratios should go into savings, spending, and leisure, if you may? Now, trying to answer all these questions can sometimes loans, forex, stock markets, and sometimes politics, and honestly, sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming. On Eye on the Money, we take you through intelligent investment and finance management decisions so that you keep track of every coin that comes out of your pocket.
There is different sports, so why not different languages?
Katika kutathmini hali na matukio viwanjani, kikosi tumekisuka kikasukika, kwani mwanzo wa chanzo ni chani mbili.
Do they need to win because they're your team or because
we won for them the league?
I'm an Arsenal fan by the way.
Why am I here? Why am I here, man?
Hapa taa zimewaka.
Kweli mataa yananiruhusu kuripoti yanayotendeka katika mtaa yote.
Maneno. Ni betting na kukibizi sana.
Mimi ni Arsenali, lazima
kaa ange, kwani bango likitolewa mjini habari huwa wameipata.
People ask me why business I am, and I normally tell them it's because of the numbers.
The deficit was 2.5 million, growing at 200,000 houses per year. Is less than 1% of your turnover, then you pay 1% of your turnover.
To the GDP of the country, last week is 7.5%.
I mean, it has to be the numbers.
1.6, 1.7 trillion collection. I think the bit all of that.
40-50% of Kenyans are still using feature phones.
That only amounts to about 2.5% increase.
Numbers!
To around 3.4, which has further been reviewed downwards to around 1.9.
Which was to contribute 24% of the GDP, now is expected to contribute about 18%.
Africa amazes me. Its technology and innovations, the people, their businesses, as a culture deeply rooted at the core of its hunger for growth. This is what I'm passionate about. Every Tuesday, it's technology on Business Center, and Thursdays, I hang out where the hustle happens. My name is Tabitha Muthoni, and this is Metropol TV, the home of wealth creators.
In journalism training, only 5 viewpoints matter for a proper story. My experience as a business journalist has, however, taught me that there is more. So now I understand that before I walk into that interview, I have to look for the hidden. So for me, what sticks is the story behind the story. What would you say is that unique, very unique selling aspect that you can guarantee I will not find anywhere else?
Good question.
My name is Ingrid Nantege, and this is Metropol Television.
There's so many reasons to love sports. But one thing stands out. Numbers.
Straight from the big leagues.
Which is the biggest team in the English Premier League?
It is the numbers that make them stand out. Even when the muscles define the game, the numbers add value to the stats. Every swing comes with a number.
On Sports Center, we go behind the game. On Sports Center, we go behind the game for the numbers. Metropol Sports Center, at this time, only on Metropol TV.
Basically, I funded from my pocket. Hapo pesa inaanza kuingia, tunaanza kuharvest.
Budget ya ukulima hii ya macadamia inakuwa ni sio mingi, ni kidogo sana.
Kaona hapo niko na shilingi 4 za faida.
You utilize the economies of scale. You know, the higher your scale of production is, the more the profit margin.
Aquaponics is if you grow plants and fish in one system.
When we came here, we realized there was potential.
We are back with bigger stories and more lessons. Yes, we are turning and learning off the pages of the Farm Journal. Every Tuesday only on Metropol TV, home of wealth creators.
Thank you for staying with the Metropol Business Center. This is Tech Tuesday. We talk matters technology, and you can get talking to us on our social media platforms. That's on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and even LinkedIn. That's at Metropol TV Kenya, and me at Tabitha T. Muthoni on Twitter. And the conversation is alive right now on Twitter. That's hashtag Metropol Business Center, Metropol TV Kenya. All right, now let us move on. And Kenya's leading mobile telephone operator, Safaricom, has signed a multi-year contract with Intelsat to modernize its network and expand LTE coverage to more subscribers across the whole country. Intelsat, operator of the world's largest and most advanced satellite fleet and connectivity infrastructure, will provide Safaricom with a cellular backhaul over satellite and enterprise connectivity services, driving innovation in Kenya from mobile money transfer service M-Pesa to health financing platform M-Tiba. Safaricom uses technology to create services that transform lives and empower communities. Now, the availability of Safaricom LTE service everywhere will enhance connectivity for the 68.9% of the Kenyan population that lives in rural areas. Now, bringing such service to these challenging, hard-to-reach places supports the Kenyan government's vision of a digitally empowered citizenry. Now, this vision is what exactly leads us to our conversation of the day on the state of Kenya's satellite connectivity. And joining us is Allah Al-Sadi, who is the Director of Business Development, IEC Telecom, who is an international satellite service operator. Allah, great to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Tabitha, and good morning to everyone.
Okay, great. Now let us start with the nitty-gritties. People would like to know who is IEC Telecom. You are an international satellite service operator, but exactly what are some of the satellite communication solutions do you have in place? Just take us through your portfolio.
Yes, thank you very much, Tabitha, and thank you for the introduction. When we are talking about satellite connectivity, just to make it simple for everyone, it's when we are talking about having internet connection and voice in remote areas. And that's where we've been working in around the globe for the last 25 plus years, representing high-level satellite owners to provide services to different sectors actually in the market, where we provide Kenya and different type of countries with satellite connectivity, high-speed internet, low-speed internet, voice and data in a customized solution actually, fitting different sector to provide such country like Kenya to help in the development of digital transformation. And we are working in Africa with different partners, as in Kenya we are working with Authentication, 15 plus years ICT company. They have a good experience actually to represent the solutions inside the country. And the reason we are working in this model is that we are always preferring to have a localized solution, someone to be very near to our clients. And that's, I think, one of the successful model that's been used in our 9 offices around the globe.
Great. Now, Allah, let us come to the state of satellite connectivity in the country. And let us begin with worldwide, because you're now in Dubai, but exactly what does it look like? What is the state of satellite connectivity worldwide, and also bringing it home here in Kenya, where you're looking to venture into at the moment?
Exactly. So the satellite connectivity, it's a specialized solution actually to be used in a critical situation, in remote areas where there is no terrestrial or GSM network available, and it's commercially unfeasible actually to build such infrastructure, or it's gonna take a lot of time. That's where satellite connectivity fits perfectly. Now, when we talk about a fast-growing economy like Kenya, which we considered as the technology hub in the region, with all these programs and plans for digitalizing the country, right, which been started already with the vision of Kenya 2030, with the ICT Authority Strategic Plan 2024, of having big plans actually to develop infrastructure for digitalization. And when you talk about digital transformation process, the first question you ask yourself is, do you have the right infrastructure in telecom and ICT to build these services? And that's where Kenya was a very successful country, and actually it will be one of the good stories to talk about in that development, because it's adapted the hybrid of solution, where you are using terrestrial network, we are using GSM, microwave, and satellite connectivity to complement each other and help the country to reach the target that they are looking for. And you can see it clearly, Tabitha, in number actually. From 2018 to 2020, 10% of the programs and projects being awarded in the government side was in the ICT and infrastructure. And that's a huge number actually, and it is growing. It is growing.
It is indeed growing, and yes, I agree. Infrastructure has a huge role to play when it comes to having connection all over the country and also worldwide, because I understand partnerships that you've mentioned play a key role as well. So maybe we can talk partnership. I know it's early introducing it, but take us through some of the public-private partnerships that maybe you're forging, and why partnerships is really important when it comes to realizing connectivity worldwide. Allah.
Sorry, I couldn't hear you very well, the connection. I'm sorry if you can just
Great.
repeat that.
Okay, great. Let me take that again. And you mentioned about partnerships, and partnerships, are a huge deal when it comes to, ensuring your business, gets all to the areas that you want it to reach to, and also, ensuring that connectivity reaches each and every part of the continent, part of the country that you're looking or venturing into. So maybe, Allah, you can take us through some of the public-private partnerships that you're forging here in the country and why it's important to you at the moment.
Exactly. We believe that for any country who's looking for huge development plans, actually, as Kenya put in place years ago, the best formula, and we saw that everywhere around the globe. As I told you, as an international company, we've been exposed to different type of plans and strategies. And why I'm saying that Kenya have a passionate strategy is the best formula to have such development is the collaboration between the government sector and the private sector. And when you are working, Tabitha, if you allow me, I will say something that my grandfather always said to me, that if you want to build a table, always give it to a carpenter. Don't do it yourself. Give it to the expert. And that's where that model, we can apply it in everywhere, in the business side and the development side, where when the government give expert people the type of consultation that they can provide on the table, actually, for the country. That's where I think that the successful model being adopted in Kenya here, that providing such collaboration with the private sector. And in the private sector, like a company like us, we are having a force of partnership, building the ICT infrastructure, building the satellite connectivity and customized solutions. So we are talking about working hand by hand, side by side with the government to achieve such targets.
Great.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, Allah, yes, I would like to believe we still have you. And that's quite, strategic that you have in place there. And maybe let's talk about the impact of satellite connectivity or satellite technology, the impact made in the country so far. And maybe also the expected impact if more effort, investment is made into this sector. Let's talk matters investment, Allah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So when we are talking about impact, I will just make it simple and more related to what we are talking, Tabitha. The main impact actually of satellite connectivity or adapting satellite connectivity is you making your progress more achievable in an easier and affordable way. So when we are saying, let's give you an example. When we are talking about digital transformation in the government services, we are talking about providing internet services or digital services to a remote area. Once we build the plans to build the infrastructure on the fiber connectivity or the GSM and microwave, that's wonderful, that's good, and that's the end of the plan. We should go there, but that will take years actually to build, and it will require a lot of money actually to build it, a lot of investment. And while we are doing that, we can't stop the progress and wait for a year or two, because that will slow us. That's why satellite connectivity fits perfectly on that, which is now an affordable solution actually. And sometimes you can compare it, some remote areas, you can compare it that should I go with telecom, terrestrial telecom, or I will go with satellite connectivity. And satellite connectivity, as simple as that. If you want to connect a remote village tomorrow, you can have it. And that's when I'm saying that you will start seeing progress on your program, because you send 2 engineers with a modem and antenna and some Wi-Fi network. That's it. You have internet connection in a remote school or a remote hospital by tomorrow. While you are building the infrastructure, which is taking years, and that's why I'm saying Kenya was successful on building that cocktail of technologies where satellite connectivity fill the gaps, temporary and times for a long run actually, based on the situation, based on the remote location. So we expect that in the next 5 years, there will be a lot of trending technologies. One of them will be satellite connectivity, because Kenya and the region itself, and actually we are talking about globally, digital transformation is a must. It's not an option anymore, Tabitha. And I'm always giving the example for people that I want you to describe for the young generation, for a teenager now, tomorrow, if he wants to renew his passport, he will go with our old model of going to the registration office and go from office to office. This young generation will never understand such a procedure. So digital transformation and taking everything online is a must. And when we want to build that, as I said in the beginning, we need first to understand what infrastructure and connectivity we should have, and we need it by today. That's the main thing. Yes.
Great. You know, infrastructure, the rural areas, digital transformation is huge, and all those are factors that will lead to us, you know, having, you know, a fully connected state or a fully connected country. But, you know, collectively, what other sectors can we say maybe are in dire need? You know, this is extreme dire need of this solution, and how will it affect the ordinary man, you know, business and other operations within Kenya? Let's talk matters, you know, dire sectors that really need this digital transformation that you're talking about, you know, you being here in the country and you have made your own observations.
Yes. So in Kenya and actually in the East region, we are talking about 4 sectors mainly, and that's they are in need yesterday, not today, yesterday, for digital transformation. We are talking about the education sector, we are talking about the health and the government sector and the agriculture. So these 4 are the least have infrastructure and the least who have digitalized solution, and the most important one to start from, as I told you yesterday. And we can see that 2 years before, when the pandemic started, put a pressure actually on these 4 sectors to provide digital solutions. So we are talking about providing connectivity for remote schools. We are talking about providing connectivity and internet services and telemedicine solution for remote clinics and hospitals. And we are talking about the climate change effect on the agriculture sector, which force us now go digital as of now, because we want to understand more about how we can increase our productivity in the agricultural market. And aside from all of this, as I told them, it put pressure on the government institutions and because of quarantine and having difficulty to go personally, and we need to take everything online. And that's where satellite was a very helpful solution, actually, to have things I told you now. There was a misunderstanding satellite connectivity before, but now with the way we approach the market as a consultant, not as a seller and buyer model, we work with government entities as a strategic partner, actually, for the long run. We and our local partner. We are educating customers now. The idea of that satellite connectivity is very expensive, and it's only for specific models. It's not more available, and it's not anymore right, because satellite connectivity now day by day and year by year, it's becoming more affordable, actually, and with a higher speed. So now you can have full coverage for a full village, actually, with affordable satellite connectivity.
Okay, great, Ala. Now, someone who is listening to you, they maybe would like to understand the difference or the advantage of satellite connectivity, you know, over the other non-satellite connectivity solutions that we have in place. Take us through that, Ala.
Yes. So, as I told you in the beginning, Tabitha, there is different type of satellite telecom channels. We are talking about terrestrial network, fiber connectivity. We are talking about microwave. We are talking about GSM, 5G and 4G and 3G, and then we are talking about satellite connectivity. Now, the misunderstanding always happening is that these are compete each other, which is totally wrong. We would go and sell satellite connectivity to someone at his home where he have a high-speed fiber connectivity. That's not the case. The case is working at hybrid, working side by side, where sometimes we want to develop, as I told you, an infrastructure on a remote school, for example. It will take years and it will take thousands of dollars. That's why that connectivity will be much cheaper and it be easier to adapt and install. That's where the difference between different type of solutions play a major role of how the country will be developed or how even the private sector will be developed. And that's where I said, and I keep saying it, that Kenya have that successful formula of creating such hybrid solution where you can see it. And I as I told you, Tabitha, and we will meet after 5 years, inshallah, and we will discuss about this, and we'll show the progress that happened in the country, that these four sectors, the education, the health, and the government, and the agriculture, in 5 years, there is a huge development gonna happen with satellite connectivity adoption actually from the government, with the cloud services, with the smart digital solutions. All of these will work as the best cocktail formula actually to achieve this type of development that's being planned.
Great. Now, and someone then would wonder what maybe are some of the favorable policies that are in place to ensure that we have, fast adaptation to satellite connectivity in the country. Let's talk matters of policies and regulation framework that we have in place that is actually or should be favorable to ensure that we tap into this fast and efficiently.
Yes, actually, there have been a lot of changes in the policies and regulation to make this very simple. The government understood this very early, actually, and they changed a lot of laws and a lot of policies to make it easy for satellite connectivity to be applied in the country, to be solved. Where there is some other countries who are well developed and not now, until now, they didn't develop the right formula or framework to apply such solution and make it difficult for private sector and have a market share there and help in the development. Kenya, as I said, was very successful on that. The regulation and policies, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, and it's with the development plans where they are looking for that collaboration with the expert, with the carpenter to build that table. So they make it very easy, they make it very simple, and make it very straightforward to apply this. And that was a well-planned solution and policy, yes.
Great. Okay, and someone with me here in studio is asking, what's your pricing model like? In short, he's asking how favorable are your prices? Yes, maybe you can take us through that. And also you have mentioned about the solutions. So just to take us through the pricing model that you have in place.
So in satellite connectivity, you are talking about CAPEX and OPEX. You are talking about some hardware, modem and antenna, and then you are talking about a monthly subscription fees. Now, why IEC Telecom and the partnership with Authentication is different? Because as I told you, working 25 plus years in the market, give you an exposure and a flexibility actually to build your model, the business model on that, and you have that different prices from other competitors in the market, which gives us a good point on competitive advantage in the market. So the flexibility that we have make it easier for us to have a market share in Kenya on the pricing, because as I told you, we don't work as a I will sell and you will buy model. We work as a strategic partner with you. We will provide you with a consultation that what kind of solution that you need, for example, in these remote schools, and what kind of bandwidth that we can provide to you, and how we can decrease cost to minimum to make it affordable and make it happen. At the end, our target with everybody, the government, the private sector, is make things happen. Right? So that's the flexibility that we have today, actually, on the market.
All right, great. So, Ala Al-Sadi, thank you very much for joining us on this conversation. Maybe your parting shot as we clear our conversation today.
So, if we want to conclude this conversation, actually, as I told you, Kenya was successful to build a digital transformation journey, and I will say journey because it's including a lot of steps actually. And if we, and now market analysis, the market now in Kenya, we are talking about, we are in building infrastructure step in the country for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And every year you will see a lot of development actually, and a lot of people are connected. And that's why the satellite connectivity will be much on need on that plans to develop such digital program and make it happen at the end to complement with the terrestrial infrastructure that the country is building.
Great. All right. Thank you so much. Ala Al-Sadi, Director of Business Development, IEC Telecom, joining us all the way from Dubai. They are an international satellite service operator. All right. Thank you so much. Stay tuned. We take a short commercial break. There's so much more lined up for you.
Managing your finances starts with questions. Where do I put my money? What opportunities are available for my money? What ratios should go into savings, spending, and leisure, if you may? Now, trying to answer all these questions can sometimes mean you have to understand concepts like savings, loans, forex, stock markets, and sometimes politics, and honestly, sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming.
On Eye on the Money, we take you through intelligent investment and finance management decisions so that you keep track of every coin that comes out of your pocket.
There is different sports, so why not different languages?
Katika kutathmini hali na matukio viwanjani, kikosi tumekisuka kikasukika, kwani mwanzo wa chanzo ni chani mbili.
Do they need to win because they're your team or because
No, Liverpool, we won for them the league.
I'm an Arsenal fan by the way.
Why am I here? Why am I here, man? Hapa taa zimewaka.
Kweli mataa yananiruhusu kuripoti yanayotendeka katika mtaa yote.
Maneno. Ni betting na kukibizi sana. Mimi ni Arsenali, lazima
Kaa ange, kwani bango likitolewa mjini, habari huwa wameipata.
People ask me why business I am, and I normally tell them it's because of the numbers.
The deficit was 2.5 million, growing at 200,000 houses per year. Is less than 1% of your turnover, then you pay 1% of your turnover.
To the GDP of the country, last week is 7.5%.
I mean, it has to be the numbers.
1.6, 1.7 trillion collection. I think it's a bit all of that.
40-50% of Kenyans are still using feature phones.
That only amounts to about 2.5% increase.
Numbers!
To around 3.4, which has further been reviewed downwards to around 1.9.
Which was to contribute 24% of the GDP, now is expected to contribute about 18%.
Africa amazes me. Its technology and innovations, the people, their businesses, as a culture deeply rooted at the core of its hunger for growth. This is what I'm passionate about. Every Tuesday, it's technology on Business Center, and Thursdays, I hang out where the hustle happens. My name is Tabitha Muthoni, and this is Metropol TV, the home of world creators.
In journalism training, only 5 viewpoints matter for a proper story. My experience as a business journalist has, however, taught me that there is more. So now I understand that before I walk into that interview, I have to look for the hidden. So for me, what sticks is the story behind the story.
What would you say is that unique, very unique selling aspect that you can guarantee I will not find anywhere else?
Good question. My name is Ingrid Nantege, and this is Metropol Television.
There's so many reasons to love sports, but one thing stands out. Numbers.
Straight from the big leagues.
Which is the biggest team in the English Premier League?
It is the numbers that make them stand out. Even when the muscles define the game, the numbers add value to the stats. Every swing comes with a number.
On Sports Center, we go behind the game. On Sports Center, we go behind the game for the numbers. Metropol Sports Center, at this time, only on Metropol TV.
Basically, I funded from my pocket. Hapo pesa inaanza kuingia, tunaanza kuharvest.
Budget ya ukulima hii ya macadamia inakuwa ni sio mingi, ni kidogo sana.
Kaona hapo niko na shilingi 4 za faida.
You utilize the economies of scale. You know, the higher your scale of production is, the more the profit margin.
Aquaponics is if you grow plants and fish in one system.
When we came here, we realized there was potential.
We are back with bigger stories and more lessons. Yes, we are turning and learning off the pages of the Farm Journal. Every Tuesday only on Metropol TV, home of wealth creators.
Thank you for staying with Metropol Business Center. The conversation continues online. Hashtag Metropol Business Center. Hashtag Metropol TV Business. That's at Metropol TV Kenya, and me at Tabitha Timothy. Now, let us have a look at some of the tech innovations that are and will change the way we live. Exoskeleton. Robotic exoskeletons are already being used by the military to give soldiers extra strength and abilities, making their job easier, but they could also help disabled people, especially those who are unable to walk or use their arms, get about easily too. Prosthetic and robotic limbs are already a reality and are proven invaluable, but to have a whole robotic body will provide a whole new level of freedom for many around the world. Another tech innovation, recycling and re-engineering. The constant churn of new technology means landfills are often full of old and obsolete tech. One thing the human race will have to do in the future is to learn new ways to recycle, reuse, and re-engineer old technology to minimize waste and save the world. People are already coming up with a variety of interesting ways to recycle old tech, including turning disused plastic into material for paving roads and pavements. Number 3, high-rise farms. As the population of Earth continues to grow, living space also shrinks, not only for human beings, but for the animals and plants we rely on too. It's reasonable to see a future where tech will need to be developed and to allow for farmland in unusual places. This concept of high-rise farms in the middle of a city is not totally out of this world. Lab-grown meats. Now, this innovation and now cows on tower blocks might seem a bit bonkers, but lab-grown meat is a real thing that's already being worked on. If scientists can develop a cost-effective way to grow edible meat in the lab, it will change the way we live and eat forever. Now, this change not only cuts down the ecological damage meat farming does to the world, but also makes for an ethical alternative to meat eating that many people could enjoy. Researchers at the University of Tokyo have been able to create cultured meat that is similar to real muscle and thereby has a more realistic structure. This means that scientists may be able to create steak-like meats rather than mains, meaning lab-grown meat could be more convincing and people might be more likely to eat it. Another innovation, robot as soldiers. Now, robots are a running theme for the future tech in our list, but Boston Dynamics is constantly working on machines aimed at supporting or taking an active role in the military. It's perfectly reasonable to imagine a future where robots are sent to fight our battles in the place of men and women. Can you imagine that? Now, these expendable machines are more likely to get the job done without fear, injury, or problems rather with PTSD or follow-up care if they get hurt. All right, let us now move to our cybersecurity tip of the day, and let's have a look at our cybersecurity tip of the day. Now, as new technology emerges, cybersecurity protocols also evolve. However, there are some basic tips you should carry with you everywhere to stay better protected against cyber attacks. Here are some general rules to follow to stay safe in 2022. Use strong passwords and a password manager. Using strong passwords is a must-do to keep yourself protected, and you should take this a step further by using a unique password for each separate account you have. This protects you in a number of ways. Using strong passwords increases your protection against brutal force attacks, to name one of many. Now, these attacks happen when a cyber criminal or threat actor uses software that generates a random and known passwords acquired from data breaches to try to guess what your password is. Think of brute force attacks like this. You know, if you forgot your combination for the padlock on your locker, you can try every number combination from 00 to 999 to find the correct combination. Now, brute force attacks work in the same way. Using strong passwords, that is a combination of lower and uppercase letters, numbers, and special characters, effectively lowers the odds of the brute force attack being successful. Not to mention that strong passwords prevent someone from simply guessing what your password is. Keep in mind, though, that the threat actor is not always on the other side of your screen. They can be sitting next to you in the office. This is where the password manager comes in. With a password manager, you only need to remember one password. Once you enter the master password, the password manager will fetch and input the password in the form you are filling out, assuming you have already stored the information in the password manager. Therefore, you can use extremely strong and lengthy passwords without worrying about remembering them and without writing your passwords on a post-it note. Number 2, use two-factor authentication, that is 2FA. Now, the first layer of protection between your account and someone else accessing it is your password. The second layer is two-factor authentication, that is 2FA. You should be using it to add an extra blanket of security to your accounts. 2FA is, at its most basic, an identity verification software. If you or the threat actor, in case, enter the correct password to your account, 2FA will kick in and require you to verify your identity, most often by entering a series of random numbers or letters sent to you via SMS or by an app. Number 3, use a VPN when on public Wi-Fi. Now, public Wi-Fi is a great thing in a pinch, but it's not a good idea to connect to a public Wi-Fi network unless you absolutely have to. If you do connect to a public Wi-Fi network, make sure you connect to a VPN. Otherwise, your traffic may be exposed to anyone on that network. Worse yet, if you send any sensitive data across the network without encryption like HTTPS, that data could be intercepted by the network operator or other people on the network. It's never a good idea. It's never a good idea to send sensitive data over an encrypted HTTP, but it's especially dangerous to do so on a public Wi-Fi network. The best solution is to do those sensitive tasks from your own private network. If you are in public and have to do something urgent, use your cellular data to play it safe. If that's not an option, it's a good idea to connect to a VPN, even though public Wi-Fi is safer than it used to be. Don't jailbreak your iPhone. No. iPhone hackers find security holes in the iPhone's iOS operating system and then take advantage of those security holes to take control over iOS. This is known as jailbreaking. The hacker then brings this jailbreaking tool to the public for download, which you may be tempted to do. When you jailbreak your phone, not only are you potentially making your phone unstable, but you are opening your device up to malicious attacks from threat actors who are also taking advantage of this exploit. If you feel you need to jailbreak your iPhone, you should probably, just buy an Android. No offense. All right, now moving on to another cybersecurity tip. Do not store sensitive info on your phone and always use a passcode lock. Now, as we mentioned, cyber attacks don't always happen on the other side of the screen. If you lose your phone and someone finds it, or if someone gains physical access to your phone and your personal information is stored on that phone, you are vulnerable. Always use a passcode lock to prevent threat actors from accessing your phone, but it's a good idea to never store any information you don't want to be exposed to the public on your phone. This includes passwords, personal information, and sensitive photos. Have it, your tech innovations and cybersecurity of the day. We end our show there today on Tech Tuesday. Hashtag Metropol Business Center, hashtag Metropol TV Business, at Tabitha Timothoni on Twitter. That's where you can get talking to me, and also at Metropol TV Kenya, where you can also get talking to us. From me and from the entire team here, it's a goodbye.
Being still privileged to be the energy dispatcher, we are keenly watching the energy mix, which now stands at 92% renewable energy. This indeed is a figure that is a high-ranking figure worldwide. The adoption of energy efficiency practices not only promotes the efficient use of the available energy, we also have found that it contributes immensely to customer satisfaction and to growth by releasing resources that are tied to payment of your electricity obligations. It gives you an opportunity for growth and expansion of your business enterprises.
A very good afternoon. You're in time on this 15th of March for the Metropol TV Business News at 1. My name is Vincent Odhiambo. Motorists in the country will be forced to dig deeper into their pockets after the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority raised pump prices of fuel to a 10-year high in the latest monthly fuel price review. Consumers will now pay 5 shillings more for a litre of super petrol, same as diesel. Beginning Tuesday, consumers in Nairobi will be charged a maximum of 134 shillings and 72 cents per litre of super petrol and 115 shillings and 60 cents for the diesel. However, kerosene, which is used in lighting and cooking, has remained unchanged at 103 shillings and 54 cents a litre. The hike in fuel prices takes shape despite the government tapping a stabilization fund. EPRA says the rise is attributed to the landing costs of imported super petrol, which rose by 13.34% from $596.79 to $676.40 per cubic meter, and that of diesel, which rose by 11.7% from $606.16 to $677.31 per cubic meter. Moving on, Kenya and Saudi Arabia have signed a memorandum of understanding in a bid to improve the balance of trade between the two countries. In the signing that was witnessed between Kenyan National Chamber of Commerce and Industry and Federation Council of Saudi Arabia Commerce, Saudi Arabia will employ 100,000 Kenyans. The MOU was executed by the Chamber President, Richard Ngatia, and FCSC Secretary General Hussein Abdudakar during the Saudi Arabia-Kenya Business Forum. And the deal, both chambers will take positive action to facilitate trade, information, services, and opportunities. The one-day business forum convened of government officials, business leaders, industry regulators, and business associations to engage in bilateral trade conversations under the theme Enhancing Trade and Investment Potential between Kenya and Saudi Arabia. The Standard Chartered Bank has warned that the geopolitical tension in Ukraine and the upcoming general elections in the country are likely to impact the banking sector to deny the players from reaping the benefits. This comes as the lender recorded the highest income in 5 years in their 2021 full-year financials, with the operating income going up 7%, with the Central Bank of Kenya planning to phase out checks in the country. Players in the sector say the country is ready due to the improvement made in financial technology in the last 2 years. Political tension in Ukraine, coupled with the upcoming general elections, continue to threaten the recovery of various sectors, including the banking sector. While releasing the full-year earnings for 2021, Standard Chartered Bank says the two factors will have an impact on the earnings of the sector, but maintains a positive outlook as the NSE-listed lender posted an increase in earnings in 5 years. The bank's operating income increased by 7% from 27.4 billion shillings to 29.2 billion shillings during the period under review, driven by non-interest income, which increased by 25%. Profit after tax increased by 67%, with customer deposits increasing by 4% from 256.5 billion shillings to 265.5 billion shillings. Loan loss provisions reduced to 2.1 billion shillings from 3.9 billion shillings in 2020, representing a 46% reduction.
The activities that have taken place from our balance sheet, the activities that our clients have continued to undertake with the bank, we are very, very pleased with our very clear digital-first strategy that has worked well, and we have executed very well under difficult circumstances in 2021.
With the industry expecting an uptake in risk-based lending model, Stanchart CEO Kariuki Ngari says the moratorium issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta last year, barring lenders from listing defaulters with the CRB, will not affect the loan provisions to previous defaulters.
We completed the clients under moratorium in 2021, the early part of 2021. So the ones that needed restructuring, that was completed. The ones that needed help, or maybe they had completely lost their business or their employment, they went into another program. So today, when we talk about how will that be impacted or how will that be influenced by risk-based pricing, it's very, very different, because there's nobody who would be coming in today who is under the moratorium. It will be completely new. And the way the risk-based pricing is envisaged, it is your risk profile at the point of applying for a facility.
Last month, the National Payment Strategy, launched by CBK, mentioned a possibility of the country following in the footsteps of South Africa to become a checkless economy. According to the bank, with financial technology improving during the COVID-19 period, the move by the regulator is likely to be implemented seamlessly.
The journey we have made as a country, especially after COVID, where there was a very big push by the regulator to do away with cash transactions, that has helped. It has helped a lot because it has sensitized Kenyans to using digital payment channels.
According to the bank, 96% of its
transactions are currently done digitally, while 70% of its services are now available on the mobile platforms. With the improved performance, the board will be recommending the payout of a final dividend of 14 shillings for every ordinary share, or 5 shillings following an interim dividend of 5 shillings that was declared and paid in December last year, bringing to a total dividend of 19 shillings per ordinary share for the year. For Metropol TV, I'm Vincent Odhiambo.
Moving on, a new poll by the Competition Authority of Kenya now shows that a majority of Kenyans are incapable of repaying loans at least once. According to the poll, 77% of the borrowers reported inability to offset the debt, while 33% of the respondents have multiple loans. Of these, men are leading in the multiple borrowing at 9.71% compared to 7.74% who are their female counterparts. The Digital Finance Market Study released Monday ahead of the World Consumer Rights Day on the 15th of March encourages the development of pricing rule which ensures positive repayment behavior by consumers translates into improved credit scores and terms. Digital lenders are, however, required to provide periodic reports on total charges paid by borrowers, including late repayment and rollover charges. The authority now seeks transparency in the digital financial services, saying this will bring new opportunities for consumers, but also inherent risks that can lead to unfair outcome, including data privacy malpractice, hidden charges, and scams. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has cautioned non-governmental organizations against being used by foreigners to destabilize the country. While speaking at the Kenyatta International Conference Center during the launch of the annual NGO sector report for the year 2020-2021, the CS said a matter of security concern that the NGOs that are non-compliant and do not file their annual reports are vulnerable to being used by terrorists to pose security threats.
When we were here last time, I behaved like a good democratic minister and said, look, you guys, let everyone comply. We have 11,890 NGOs registered in Kenya. Out of those 11,890, about 9,000 are the ones that are active. And out of those 9,000 that are active, only 3,000, just about 3,000, have filed compliance reports. It means 6,000 NGOs have not complied, and it means that we have in our books something like 2,500 NGOs that are just briefcase NGOs, or they were registered by individuals, so they shouldn't be called NGOs, they should be called NGIs, non-governmental individuals. So I ask good people that let's comply. It's good for all of us. Because when we comply with the regulations and do what we're supposed to do and file our reports, one, for my colleagues at the Ministry of Planning and the National Bureau of Statistics, it is easier to get accurate and reliable data for planning, especially when it comes to engagement.
Uganda is now ranked the 5th with a score of 47 out of the 23 countries surveyed in the African Financial Markets Index 2021. The latest ABSA Group survey released indicates that Kenya dropped from 7th position, where it recorded 58 points in 2020 and dropped to 47 points in the latest survey. On market size and liquidity, Kenya has a low equity turnover of 5% of its market cap. The AFMI report says external debt profiles worsened for most countries during the pandemic, with only 4 countries having an external debt above 50% of GDP at the end of 2020. Kenya, among others, such as Ethiopia and Ghana, are at high risk of debt distress, while Mozambique remains the worst, with an external debt to GDP ratio at 97.5%. The ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index evaluates financial market development in 23 countries and highlights economies with the most supportive environment for effective markets. The index assesses countries according to 6 pillars, among others: market debt, access to foreign exchange, and enforceability of financial contracts. Gas dealers are forced to exploit their savings, while others have sought loans from creditors to keep their businesses running due to continued increase in the cost of cooking gas. The dealers are requesting the government to review gas taxes and subsidize gas prices to lower the cost of living, which has seen 6 kg gas cylinders currently retailing at 1,500 Kenyan shillings and a 13 kg gas cylinder currently retailing at 3,300 Kenyan shillings. According to Muranga County ecosystem conservators, increase of gas prices will force a majority of residents to seek cheaper alternatives like charcoal and firewood, a direct hit to conservation efforts. In supply of petroleum in European markets will push up demands for the commodity, and amid supply shortages, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict is expected to have far-reaching implications for the global economy, given that the countries involved are major producers of natural gas. Well, that marks the end of Business News at 1. My name is Vincent Odhiambo. More updates in an hour.
Business doesn't wait. Why should you? Get updated with the latest business news on the go. It's simple. SMS the word news to 20146 and receive breaking news on the go. What are you waiting for? SMS news to 20146 now.
My name is Shiko Kimani. I am the proprietor for Paprigano Restaurant and Pub in Nakuru, Milumani. I started this restaurant in 2008. Paprigano, the name, is actually a combination of paprika and oregano. Paprigano. So those are the herbs we use when we are doing our barbecues. Smeka is, I would call it a system that allows you as an entrepreneur to load all your transactions. It helps you monitor your cash flows. You are actually able to pull out a profit and loss statement from the system. You can also pull out your LPOs from the system. The better part of it is the banks are able to access your daily routine, your inflows, your outflows, like that. And so when the banks do that, then they actually don't need so much documentation when you want a facility. You can actually just get a facility in 24 hours. Yes, so the bank can be able to see what you buy, what you don't buy. Okay, your stock is low. They can even call you and ask you, okay, we've seen your stock is low. Can we, come in and assist you? And you can also request for loans online. So I think it's a really good product, and once the entrepreneurs know about it, it would be very good, because even if you go to the bank, the bank for a facility, they always ask you for the documents. A lot of entrepreneurs don't have the documentation that I sold this today, I sold this in a month, what's your turnover, So yeah, it has been really helpful. I would recommend Smeka to any entrepreneur, because it actually organizes you. You're able to have your documents in place. You know your net worth, you're able to plan, you're able to budget, and that is what entrepreneurs need to become successful.
To register your business on Smeka platform, call 0715 830 690. Smeka, your highway to business financing and automation.
Would you love to finish that novel you're reading when there's a blackout? Or do you simply enjoy reading at night and don't want to turn on the light? Well, Boywood has got you covered. Let's take it away. Light is essential for any reading experience, and that's why book lights are fundamental in helping you read at night or in the dark without a hassle. Introducing the Boywood Booklight, a completely reimagined booklight for a better reading experience. It is powered by tiny LEDs that give you even warm lighting that maintains contrast while scattering light to minimize glare. It also allows you to control lighting precisely with the touch for uninterrupted reading. Boywood Booklight has a refreshing look designed with style and comes in different popping colors to match your personality. The band is made of genuine leather and is laminated for durability. Aluminium magnet buckles are also included to give the light a polished experience and ensure it doesn't fall off. You can grab one of these unique booklights or an alternative on Amazon for just 2,000 Kenyan shillings. For more tech features, follow us on our social media handles at Metropol TV KE. On being resourceful, let's look at a hustle one can start with less than 5,000 Kenya shillings and make profits. Mahindi Choma hustle. Yes, even with the mention, it does not sound viable, but with some research from a Mahindi Choma maize dealer in Muranga Market, let's break down the numbers. For starters, you will need to identify your source of supply. This means where to get the maize from. Secondly, a location to sell your maize. Target a very busy location like bus stops and busy marketplaces. Thirdly, what's the pricing? One full maize should at least give you 40 to 50 shillings. Let's do some math. If 3 maize go for 50 shillings, then if you sell one at 40 shillings, you'll have made a profit of 120 Kenya shillings from the 3 maize. Now, how about 50 maize? That will yield about 2,000 Kenya shillings. How about a whole sack of maize? If done consistently, Mahindi Choma could become a fruitful hustle. You could indicate on a carton your price or even be creative. Other things you will need are a jiko, wire mesh, and charcoal. All these readily available in the market or local stores.
We're back on the streets of Nairobi. Hi, my name is Natasha Gunda, and this is Street Biashara. Today on the streets of Nairobi, we will be finding out how well Kenyans know the term cash flow.
Cash flow is amount of money that you have to run a business.
Ni jinsi unapokea pesa na venye pia inatoka kwa mkono wako.
Cash flow ni venye tunaweza sema aje. Okay, flow, wacha kwanza nichukue flow. Flow ni kitu ambayo ina from down kwenda hadi chini ama kuanzia chini kwenda juu. Ni kama saizi venye tunasikia, saizi kuna siasa zinasema bottom up. Sasa kuna zingine top up, vitu kama hizo. Unaona? But sasa tukisema bottom up ni kaa kuanzia chini. Sasa hiyo flow ya pesa, hizo pesa kuanzia chini, kuanzia 1 bob hadi ifike huko 1 M.
Cash flow. The cash flow now, that depends now in your context. Cash flow, it could be in terms of like how much money you're getting in terms of cash. You know how you're generating your money, your flows. So you might be having assets, but you'll never be having cash flow. And you'd be forced to sell your assets and stuff like that. So it all depends on that now, the concept of what you want to look at.
We're back in the studio from the streets of Nairobi, and the question we were asking is cash flow. And joining me to dissect this term is none other than expert Gabriel Mwendwa. Gabriel?
So cash flows are basically the movement of money in and out of a company's bank accounts or in its own records, whether it's petty cash or a bank account. The in and out of cash. The difference between these and other things like the sales and whatever you have in your profit and loss statement is that the cash flow only captures the movement of actual cash. That is the cash flow.
All right. So you can't have cash flow that is not liquid?
Yeah, so a cash flow basically captures only what is actually cash. It does not capture, if you, for example, if you go buy stocks you want to sell, we will only capture the money to pay out. We will not record the inventory as part of your cash flow. We only capture when the money was spent. When you sell your inventory, we will only capture the receipt of money. Simple as that. So as the name suggests, purely cash, and it's used to arrive at the cash balance in a company's bank account at the end of a year.
All right, there you have it. That was the term cash flow as dissected by expert Gabriel Mwendwa. This is Street Biashara, and my name is Natasha Gunda.
In the heart of central region of Kenya is Muranga County. Believed to be the cultural cradle of the Gikuyu people, Muranga County has a total population of about 942,581 people, with the males taking 48% and the females 52%, according to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics 2009 National Census Report. The county lies between 914 meters above sea level in the east and 3,353 meters above sea level along the slopes of the Aberdare Mountains in the west. The highest areas form the rain catchment areas from where most of the rivers draining the county originate. Hence, the county occupying a total area of 2,558 square kilometers. Initially known as Fort Hall in the colonial times, Muranga is the largest town amongst other towns in the county. The county is run under the administration of the first devolved government, with Governor Francis Mwangi wa Iria as the first and current governor, Irungu Kenyatta as senator, Sabina Chege as women representative, and Kula Hache as county commissioner. The physical structure of the county consists of volcanic rocks, with the topography and geology of the county being both an asset and liability to the county's development, which has seen residents engage in small-scale farming and livestock keeping. With the backbone of Muranga County's economy deeply rooted in agriculture, over 60% of small-scale farmers grow tea and coffee as the main cash crops. With Governor Mwangi wa Iria's past experience as a milk trader, Muranga County is reaping big from its milk production, with milk producers recording a high of 127 million shillings in between 2015 and 2016. The milk trade, turning up to be a major income earner in the county, has seen a setup of 35 milk coolers, provision of free and guaranteed artificial insemination services, supply of free high-yielding fodder and sweet potato vines to its members to boost productivity. The county's mandate is derived from the Presidential Circular number 1 of May 2008. In this, the department is tasked with developing trade policies looking at promotion of retail and wholesale markets with a look at development of micro and small businesses, fair trade practices and consumer protection, and the private sector development.
Now, let's have a look at our cybersecurity tip of the day. Don't write your passwords down. Tip 1, when it comes to remembering passwords, the worst mistake you can do is write them down. Instead, save passwords. Tip number 1, memorize it. Cybersecurity experts agree that this is the safest way to keep your password secure. Keep your most sensitive passwords in your head. Do not write them down. This can be tricky and may not always be feasible in all situations, given the amount of passwords we all have today. Save passwords. Tip 2. Use a password manager. It can be tough to remember all of your passwords, especially if you have several strong passwords. A strong password will have different and related words, numbers, and even characters. A good recommendation is, however, keeping your most sensitive passwords in your head, such as the password for your bank account or even work email. Save passwords. Tip number 3. Put additional security measures in place. Many accounts offer additional protection mechanisms such as multi-factor authentication. In case you're not familiar with it, multi-factor authentication is a method that requires you to provide 2 or more factors to verify that you are who you say you are in order to get into your account. A common example is having you enter your password followed by answering a security question you have already completed, such as the first concert you ever attended. And always select strong passwords. Do not write them down, memorize them, change them frequently, and do not share them with anyone. Now that your security is as strong as your password. And that is your cybersecurity tip of the day.
Welcome back. You are watching on Metropol Television. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kienge. We are celebrating our women the entire month of March. And today, we look at how we can empower women owned businesses to build back better. Now, gender equality is crucial to building thriving, inclusive African economies. And while both men and women are restricted by gender norms, young women disproportionately bear the burden of inequality. COVID-19 is setting back recent gains made towards women empowerment across the continent and a post-pandemic recovery that not only ensures women are not left behind, but accelerates gender equity, which will spur Africa's economic growth and development. Now, joining us this morning to speak on this is Juliet Ongwae, who is a digital financial services specialist at Microsoft Consulting. Juliet, good morning.
Good morning, Simba. How are you?
Fantastic. We are happy to have you around. Let me get into that particular conversation. Juliet, the International Women's Day theme is breaking the bias. From what you said this morning, what bias is there when it comes to women-owned MSMEs, or we've already moved beyond that?
No, we've definitely not moved beyond that. And with COVID, we've even seen, us taking a few steps back.
Yes.
So when you think about bias, you think about it in three ways. One is around product design. So the products designed are not gender sensitive. When you look at, say, onboarding processes, look at collateral requirements, they work against women, especially in this emerging market. We see women still lagging behind in terms of identity. So having proper identity that's required, say the national ID, yet that's a critical requirement when onboarding. We look at issues around women still not owning property, not owning land, yet that is a collateral requirement for financial services, especially for credit. So already it's working against the women, especially if they want to move towards growth or towards scale, where they want better financial services, where they want a bigger ticket loan sizes and things like that. So we still see bias in terms of DFS or financial services for women, and this has become even worse post-COVID.
Pretty much. I'm coming to that particular area on exactly what we're talking about, what differences in terms of the challenges within COVID-19 that women in businesses have faced, especially when we compare them directly with the men-run enterprises. But let me take you back a bit to what you've just mentioned. What would you say is putting us still in this space in this particular decade, Juliet? Is it because we are still talking about women businesses as opposed to businesses in general? And do you think us still sticking to women businesses makes us look at women businesses differently? Is that what the challenge is?
Yes and no. We still need to look at women in businesses and how we can be gender sensitive.
Yes.
As we handle women in business. We're
Yes.
not where
Juliet,
we can say just
Juliet,
businesses.
Juliet, I'm sorry to cut you short.
Yes.
I gotta tell you this. There is a school of thought that says that if then you single out women, then indeed you're making it difficult for them. But then if you work for the betterment of the entire sector, if you indeed want it to improve, then you gotta look at it as wholesome as opposed to saying, well, women in business as opposed to business or entrepreneurs.
Yes, and that's why I say yes and no. So why I say that is we still have deep structures in place. We still have to look at systemic change before we can say business in general and take out the women in business.
Yes.
So women are up against social norms that have worked against them for years. So we cannot just wake up and say, okay, it's time to drop women and look at just businesses in general. We still have to unpack those deep structures. We still have to look at how to mainstream gender, how to look at policies that work against women before we can take out that women in businesses. So we first have to have that bigger conversation about how did we get here? What are these norms and values in place that are working against women before we can now start saying, you know what, take out women in business, it's all for one, and the environment is ready for everybody.
Yes.
Without that, we will always get into situations where we are talking about why just women, why not men, and conversations around that. So we first have to unpack that before we can move forward.
Somebody listening to you would look at especially the Kenyan economy, and saying we have legislation that is pro women in a business. And since we're talking about this decade, why haven't we caught up? Even when we look around and then saying legislation and laws that support women in business are available, and the entities within the economy that are also supporting women in business. What makes women in business a special conversation, Juliet?
So we do have, let me call them programs in place.
Yes.
That are supporting women, especially with credit,
Yes.
you know, specifically for women.
And legislation, if you might
And
say.
legislation,
Yes.
that is supporting women.
Yes.
But we are supporting women that we have not prepared. Okay, so we woke up, we changed legislation, we are starting to develop products, but we're working with women that are not ready.
Yes.
We need to still work in terms of coaching the women, business coaching, building trust and confidence. Okay, so these are women that have not been in business. These are women that have not even owned property, have not made decisions in the household. Especially financial decisions. So they do not just wake up and run businesses. How do we support them along all these other interventions in place so that they are also business ready? And I think that's one of the areas that we drop. So we quickly changed policies, legislations, quickly put together products that still do not work for them. But we also do not prepare them to be ready to not only run businesses, but to actually grow, to scale, to innovate, and make sure you know, they get to the next level.
Yes, pretty much. Now, so we got into the COVID-19 pandemic, therefore. Juliet, are you able then to show us how COVID-19 pandemic affected women differently from how it affected men-run enterprises? And how were you able to come up with these differences? And then say, well, you see, the differences in how women-run enterprises have been affected separately from men-run enterprises.
Yes. So I'll start with figures. We did conduct several studies. And in the studies, we found that more women reported loss of income than men. So about just slightly more than 50% as
Yes.
opposed to 30% men. Now you find women are in businesses that are in service sector, you know, so they, while men might be in manufacturing, which still sort of transitioned through COVID. Service industry was affected very much during COVID and the shutdowns. So women found themselves either with reduced income or loss of income without any safety nets. Additionally, women increased or assumed higher roles in terms of childcare, in terms of homeschooling, as opposed to men. So when we look at the data, women hours in terms of working at home or working with children at home was at about 11 hours a day,
Yes.
as opposed to men, which is 3 hours a day. So they had to move back home, take care of children, probably shut down businesses or open businesses for a very short period. So when you look at that, already there's a disadvantage towards women, even during the pandemic.
Pretty much. And would you say then that these challenges are winning off in a 2022, or we're still right within them, Juliet?
They are winning off. We have seen reports of recovery. The numbers are still low.
Yes.
The women are about 20% are reporting full recovery, but we are seeing, or maybe this is the time to seize the opportunity, even as they recover, so that they recover better.
Yes.
So not to where they were, but better. So we have seen with the pandemic, there's a push towards digital, mobile financial services. So how do we leverage on that? Women that had not used digital finance were pushed towards that. So even as they recover, how do we then build on that and make sure that now they can fully embrace DFS?
Pretty much. So that's the next part of the conversation now. And just before we get there, I'll be asking you, I mean, what are we fighting culture when we're talking about women in business and the challenges that women face in business? And I'm asking from this perspective, are we fighting the culture of, well, women don't have to be in business? Is that what we're fighting in this decade, Juliet?
Yes. Surprisingly, that's what we are fighting.
Yes.
So I listened to you earlier. We're having issues with Keroche.
Yes.
And there is an element of gender. So there's a boys' network that possibly we are missing out of.
Yes.
As women, that we probably need to build as women, or see how we can join this boys' network. Because it is necessary in business, and especially as you grow your business. So there is an element of culture we are fighting, and that's even at a higher level. At a lower level, we, as I mentioned earlier, we're fighting cultural norms, around, say, inheritance.
Yes.
So women are still not inheriting land or property. So that already disadvantages them. So there's many issues around culture that work against us.
Pretty much. Now, let's therefore talk about what we need to do differently and at 2022 onwards, if we're going to talk about helping women run enterprises bounce back better from the hold of the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, Juliet, from what you said this morning, where does it need to start from?
Let's start with the understanding. So yes. the as is, and that only requires data. So right now, when you even try to look at data, it is aggregated data. How do we collect and start analyzing gender disaggregated data so that we can actually have the real picture of what's happening? What's the difference between men and women in business?
Yes.
How do the numbers look like? So that we have decisions based on data or informed by data. So right now, they're not informed by data, so probably they will not work. So let's first start there. How do we get the right data? Who has this data, and how do we collect the data? Second is possibly how do we support business, women businesses, probably through creating a business value for the financial service providers.
Yes.
So possibly a guarantee scheme or a risk sharing scheme so that they can be confident in serving women, especially in the beginning. So how do we also support them to start working with women? Because there's this perception that working with women is risky. And so possibly support them so as they learn about women, as they collect data about women,
yes,
and then be able now to fully work with women. Third would be around possibly product redesign. So how do we make them a little bit more gender sensitive? So again, it's not product for women, but a product that is sensitive to women.
Yes.
Looking at flexible KYC. So if women do not have IDs right now, what can we use, at the meantime to be able to onboard them? Looking at how we can bring on board, say, female agent, so that women are comfortable engaging with agents as they join DFS. Because right now we also get feedback that they are concerned in terms of working or approaching male agents. So we could bring on board female agents. So those are some of the little nuances we can add to our products to start bringing the women into DFS.
Yes.
And scale.
Pretty much. Let's talk about market. And I was looking at some report, I just can't put my finger on it, that was saying that indeed when you look at women-run enterprises, that women would like to do smaller businesses. Indeed, they have the capacity to grow their enterprises, but in more ways than one, you'll find them saying, well, I would just like to run my business as small as it is. Is that also a challenge? And is that a culture that we have to change? And how are we going to beat that, Julia, from what you're saying this morning as well? Because indeed, when we talk about women in a business, it can't be the kiosks, has to be businesses that are run across the board.
Okay, I would want to see that report because I challenge that report.
Yes.
Women do want to run big businesses. And I think women run businesses better than men. But at the point where they're at, as I mentioned, we still need to build their confidence.
Yes.
So possibly that is what gives the impression that women want to run only small businesses. I think if when you look at a woman's livelihood, her household, they are all tied into one.
Yes.
So if we are able to take care of 360, the woman would be able to grow her business from small to medium to large. But at the point, if it's the same woman that has to be at home in terms of childcare, it's a other different ways to assess credit, then we will, essentially what we are doing is making them remain small.
Yes.
So I don't think it is what they want, it is how the market is structured. And if we open up the market, I can guarantee that we'll be seeing more women in medium and large enterprises.
Pretty much. On that particular area for market access, do you think that we as an economy have really opened up the markets for women-run enterprises in the country? Because again, that has been a bigger conversation, that indeed we have businesses full potential without proper market access. Would you say we've made gains? And as the COVID-19 pandemic really taught us different ways of then opening local enterprises to outside markets, you would say?
Yes, we've made gains, and I think I will also give it to women. We've also started to be very innovative.
Yes.
With COVID, we saw a push towards e-commerce. So we are not even waiting. We have moved to e-commerce platforms. So you see a lot of women businesses in online marketplaces, which then means they've been very innovative in how they handle one of the barriers where they have to stay home and take care of children.
Yes.
So they can run their businesses from home. They're tapping into markets, Kenya, because now they've placed their businesses online. So we have opened up marketplaces, especially as we leverage more on digital, but women themselves are also looking at, okay, this is my situation, and still make sure that my business stays running and grows.
Pretty much. Now, Julian, I want you to speak specifically at to achieve with some of the initiatives that you're currently running that are women-centered, would you say?
Yes. So we have numerous projects we're working on and with women.
Yes.
And I think what we are looking at now is increasing the usage of DFS. So we've seen high numbers in terms of access, especially in Kenya. We cannot say we have a problem with access, but we are still seeing low numbers in terms of use of DFS. So how do we keep the women using digital end-to-end? So that are some of the projects we're working on, where we are looking at how to sensitize these digital products, how to bundle this and savings, investment, all on digital platform for women. So bundle products, and finally also digitize. So how do we ensure that they have the right information They continue to have business coaching digitally. So those are some of the
your prediction. I don't want to say optimism, because you're right within really trying to change that aspect for women and women in business. Could you give me your prediction as to when we'll come back and say, I think we are there now when it comes to parity with the men when it comes to business in the region and the country as well?
We've begun the conversation.
Yeah.
The unfortunate incident that happened recently,
yes.
The women are standing up and pushing back. And beyond that, we are also very, very creative and innovative. So not wallowing, but saying, okay, this is the situation. How can we innovate? How can we still grow our businesses?